Hello everyone and welcome to the first lesson of the Basic Computer course. I am the Professor Maria Rosaria Miccoli and I will be taking the whole course. This course aims to teach the basics of computers to all of you so that you can use them to the full. Well, let's begin with the definition of informatics. We may define informatics as the science of information representation and processing. This science studies automatic information management, for example, techniques and methods for the automatic representation and processing of information. It is important to pay attention to the word automatic, which means that a computer is used sometimes even without the help of a human being. Informatics and computers are part of two more complex systems. The first is IT, which stands for Information Technology, and is the technology that encompasses every entity and/or sector related to computer technology, for example, the hardware, the software, the networks, the internet, the people who make use of these technologies. While ETC, which stands for Information and Communication Technology, is the set of technologies that allow the processing of and access to information through telecommunications, for example, internet, wireless networks, mobile phones, and other means of communication. We defined informatics as the science of representation and elaboration of information, but we have to be careful with the word information, because information consists of a set of data that enable us to increase our knowledge and thus our ability to carry out operations and make decisions. Information can be created in many ways, for example through images, a word, or a message on a medium of any kind. In the previous slide, we spoke about data. In this slide, we will speak about the data unit. Data is the essential element of ETC, the smallest unit of measurement representing the basis of information. Information is the fundamental element, the essential key for development of communication and knowledge. Data, therefore, form the basis of an exchange of information that is essential and necessary for the performance of all ET-related activities. Information is physically and logically organized and exchanged via computers. Data is composed of a very small unit called a bit that gives rise to various units of measurement. So, in computer science, 8 bits correspond to 1 byte. Therefore, taking into account the different units of measurements, we will say that 1 kilobyte corresponds to 1024 bytes. 1 megabyte corresponds to 1024 kilobytes. 1 gigabyte corresponds to 1024 megabytes, and 1 terabyte corresponds to 1024 gigabytes. Data is also essential for the language of the computer. Indeed, data is the computer's way of communicating with its user, who are the users. The users are those physical persons using it. The computer uses a language which is called binary language. The binary number system is a base 2 positional number system. It uses only 2 symbols, usually denoted 0 and 1, instead of the 10 digits used by the decimal number system. Each of the numbers expressed in the binary number system is referred to as a binary number. Although computers are not hexadecimal, programmers use it to represent binary addresses in a human-readable format when writing code. This is because 2 hexadecimal digits can represent an entire byte, so 8 digits in binary. The essential question we may ask is, how does a computer work? Well, a computer has a hardware part and a software part. Similarly, we could define the hardware as the physical component of the computer, while the software as the spiritual component. In informatics, there are two tools to interpret information. The first one is the formal tool, which allows us to theoretically process information by means of mathematical operations, for example, and material tools with which we materially represent information, for example, the abacus. Well, let's begin this module by defining what is a computer. A computer is an electronic machine that allows information to be received, transmitted, stored, and processed, solving problems that may arise easily and quickly. The computer is not able to solve complex problems as the human being, so it works with the help of the human being. We can distinguish between two major groups relating the computers. So the first group is laptops or notebooks. We may define them as the agenda computers whose main features are high maneuverability, portability, low weight, and small size. The input-output peripherals are compact and integrated with the exception of the external power supply, which is connected to a power supply to recharge the battery. The second group is composed by the PC desktop, which are classical desktop computers. But we have to pay attention to the word desktop, which means the tower to which all external peripherals of input and output are connected. They can come in different format and size, as we can see from the image. Okay, now we will analyze the components of the hardware, beginning with the monitor. What is the monitor? The monitor is the main output of the computer, a tool that shows us the information processed by the computer through basic software, so the operating system. Another part of the hardware is the keyboard, which is an input device used to write to and interact with the operating system. Then we have the mouse, which is an input device that allows you to interact with graphic objects on the desktops, for example, icons, files, and folders. We could speak also about speakers, loudspeakers, or speakers, which are output peripherals and allow you to hear the data emitted by the computer in the form of the sound. Another important element is the external hard disk, which is an external memory connected to a computer port called USB, where you can save your data through the backup process. What is the backup process? The backup process is a safety copy you can make of your file or more important data so as not to lose them. Then the printer, which is an output peripheral that allows you to obtain a hard copy of the information contained in our computer, for example, documents and photos. Well, now we will define the different typologies of system unit. Indeed, we can speak about a PC desktop, which is also known as a desktop computer, and is the traditional upright computer shown in the picture on the left. Another typology is the horizontal desktop, which is also called the desktop PCs, typical of workplaces and are more compact and can be placed under a monitor, for example, to save space. We may also speak about integrated desktop, which is called all-in-one and is a compact desktop that integrates a PC with a screen. Then we have the mini desktop, which is also known as the thin client, which is a very compact business PC of vertical type, typically used for internet connections, local network, or firewall use. Second to one is the tablet 2-in-1, which is a portable touchscreen PC with the Android operating system with which you can interact without using a keyboard. Latest is the laptop, which is also known as a notebook and has all the functionality of a desktop, but is much more compact, lightweight and handy, equipped with a removable battery. Other hardware components are the optical drive, which is the CD or DVD player, also known as a burner, for example, a memory unit where we can read or write our data onto digital CD or DVD media, for example, to open a program or save data. The desktop input-output panel is located on the back of the desktop PC and it is used to connect other external hardware peripherals of input and output, such as microphone, headset, keyboard, mouse, and so on. In this image, we have a scheme of the ports to which we can connect our input-output hardware. The first is called the parallel port, which is the port to which were connected all the printers. The second one is the Italian PS2 port analog keyboard. The third one is the Italian PS2 port analog mouse. The fourth and the fifth are network port LED and a network port for Ethernet. The sixth is the network port LED. The 7 and 8 are audio input and audio output, so to which we can connect, for example, speakers. The ninth is the microphone. The 10th is the USB port, which is called 2.0. The 11th is the VGA video output, so it is analog, and the last is the serial port. Then we have the front panel, which contains several connection ports, input and output peripherals, which can be provided to connect memory cards, for example SD or micro SD, USB pens, adapters, or devices such as headphones, microphones, and audio speakers. Essential is the power button, because by pressing this button turns on the computer and starts loading the operating system, so the complex of hardware and software. The computer has many ways to communicate with a human being. An example are the LED lights. These are located on the front of a PC and indicate the operating status. Usually, the green LED indicates the PC when it is switched on. The red light indicates the loading status of the operating system. The unit system has a frontal ventilation. This frontal ventilation is necessary to cool the internal components of the computer and dissipate the residual heat to avoid possible overheating. The most important part of the computer is the power supply, which is the socket visible in the top right-hand corner of the picture below and is connected by a cable to a 220 volts household power socket. This external current supplies the internal current in the computer converted to DC voltage 12 volts. The power supply is equipped with a fan to dissipate the heat produced by the components inside. Well, let's define the video cables. These are used to connect your PC to an external monitor to display and interact with the operating system. In the picture, an example of analog video cable called VGA, which stands for a video graphic array. Another important cable is the HDMI, which stands for High Definition Multimedia Interface, and is a high-definition digital video cable and provides the best picture quality to which an external monitor can be connected, for example, a modern LED TV. Another one is the DVI, which stands for Digital Video Interface, and is another type of digital connection to connect a monitor. In this slide, we will speak about connectors. What is a connector? A connector is a device for keeping two parts of an electric circuit in contact. So the first one is the USB, which stands for Universal Serial Bus, and is a port used to connect external mass storage devices such as USB sticks, where you can save and store your data. They are removable memory units that have been available on the market for several years in different data transfer speeds, for example USB 2.0 and USB 3.0, and storage capacities in megabytes or gigabytes. Another important connector is the network or Ethernet port, which is present on the network equipment such as modems, routers or switches, where the connector is plugged in to access the LAN network in a company office and access the internet. We could speak also about expansion slots, which are housed on the motherboards of desktop computers, and these allow you to install additional hardware cards in order to expand the functionality of your PC. Then we have the eSATA, which is a port for the latest generation of external hard drives. And the last one is the USB 3.0, which is indicated in blue and is a port that transfers data faster than a traditional USB, such as, for example, 1.0 and 2.0, which are indicated in black. The jacks represent a slide apart because the audio jack connects a home theater system of 2 or more speakers, including subwoofer, which are connected to the yellow port, the rear speakers, which are connected to the black port, the audio sound output, which is connected to the green port, the input from external sources, which is connected to the light blue, and last is the microphone, which is connected to the pink port. The last connector is the SPDIF, which connects the external audio devices, for example TV, amplifier, and stereo. Well, now that we have defined what is informatics and what is a hardware of a PC, I will give you some tips on how to position your computer correctly. First of all, it is advisable to place your computer on a large flat surface to hold the case, monitor, mouse, keyboard and all the peripherals you use the most. Remember The surface must always be stable and secure to avoid sudden drops and damage the parts. Another important tip regards the computer. The computer should be away from heat sources because it could overheat, but the temperature should not be too cold either. Attention should also be paid to the light. It should not be positioned at the back of the monitor because it could dazzle our eyes, but also not behind us because this would make it impossible to read what is written on the monitor. In informatics, we have also safety rules, and in this slide I indicated 3 of them. First of all, the case must be placed close to all the other elements as the cable cannot be dragged from one side of the house to the other. Should it be necessary, we must tie them down in such a way as to avoid danger. The second one regards the electricity of all connected devices, and it is a good idea to connect them to power strip because it has a button that can be switched off in the event of a power surge to safeguard the computer. And the last one is the uninterruptible power supplies, which can also be used, which in the event of voltage fluctuations provide the computer with the right energy to power it. Here we are at the end of the first lesson. Thank you for your attention and see you next time.